Okay, so I'm going to mute everybody too. All right, there we go. So yesterday, when Laura started talking about environmental, effects on the thyroid and estrogen and all that, we're going to be getting into that stuff because I know a couple of people messaged me and they're like, "What was that?" Like, oh my God, I never even thought. Well, we're going to talk about that today. So it is 12:01. We're going to get started. I know some people are going to be late and some people just want the recording today because they're really busy. So Claudia, I'm going to ask you just to type in the chat when you see my screen once I get it started here. Let's see. I want to say we were on page 23, I think. Okay. I'm getting there. Gosh, I really talked that fast. We covered that much information in an hour and like 10 minutes. Whoa. All right, I'm going to go back to 21 because we're starting kind of the lab series today. And I really want to talk just a little bit more about conventional medical doctors, et cetera. So let me share my screen and we'll get rolling. Hey, Veronica, I saw you just pop on. Okay. All right. Claudia, do you see that screen, labs and other tasks, section 1? Okay, perfect. All right, let me open it up a little bit. And then everybody disappears. See, I can't do that because then I can't see you guys. Hold on a minute. Oh. Okay, I'm going to put us over here. I'm going to make this thing a little bigger. Okay, and I'm trying to remember if it was it was Nicole, I think, that actually posted her thyroid labs. You guys, is that right? In our group page, was it yesterday? With her TSH that was high. Did anybody look at those? I thought that was pretty interesting. Okay, so we may refer to that if she hops on today. All right, so doctors and other important labs, I want to talk about this again, just kind of briefly, just as a couple of reminders as we move into the lab talk about this is remembering that conventional medical doctors they have a one gold standard test for thyroid, and that's the TSH. And sometimes if we're lucky, they might throw a free T4 on there, but most of the time it's TSH, total T4, and total T3. And so when we talk about the prefix to the words T4 and T3, we're using total and we're using free. Because here's the thing. When we talk about total T4, and I'm going to explain what T4 and T3 are in totality in a moment, but we are talking about what's in the body. We're not talking about what's free and available and bioavailable to the body to use. So when we talk about free, which we're going to in a few minutes, that's what's in the blood. That's what's in, like, think about it as hanging around in the blood, waiting for our receptors to accept the thyroid hormone. It's there, it's ready to work for us. When we don't know what's free and unbound to proteins and things in our body, we don't really know what to do or what's working and what's not. And that's what the total T4, total T3 is. It's only giving you a total amount of thyroid hormone in the entire body. It's not saying, hey, I'm free to work for you. It's like, I'm here, but I'm not going to tell you whether or not I'm going to work for you or not. Okay. That's why it's important that we are getting the labs that tell us what is free and available. So again, just as a reminder, when we are working with clients that say, oh, I got my TSH tested and I'm fine. A gentle way to nudge them in a different way of thinking is to say, you know what, I've got a great article about why the TSH is probably not adequate for determining whether or not your thyroid is working properly. So let me forward you a couple of links and let you take those to your doctor. Because, if we got to remember when we are working with clients, yes, we're educating them for their own health, but we have a really unique opportunity here to actually reach beyond that client into a doctor's office where a doctor may never have heard about the TSH being inadequate. We can have our clients be that avenue of information to that doctor. So many doctors think that that's still the case, but if someone brings them an article and they're open-minded, they may be like, you know what? That makes so much sense. It's not a thyroid hormone. It's a pituitary hormone. I don't even know what's going on with your thyroid. So please, at any time, if you get the opportunity to share your knowledge with your clients, ask them to pass this information on. It's the only way we're going to see big changes if we keep asking for conventional doctors to start changing their thinking. So again, we've already talked, we all know about functional medical doctors, naturopaths, et cetera, and even some conventional medical doctors are jumping on board. But when we think about functional medical doctors, I think I'm a functional, I take a functional approach to coaching. When I say functional, it means that we are able to function in our lives, in our bodies, in our skin, in our minds, everywhere, emotionally, mentally, physically. We are functioning healthily in the world. Okay, so when we take a functional medical approach, we're thinking about the body from the head to the toe. When we're thinking about functionally coaching, we're doing the same thing, but we're staying in our lane as coaches and we're not stepping into that medical practice. So I just want to be clear that that's everything. When I teach about functional approach to coaching, that's what I'm talking about. We're looking at everything. So now that we know what labs we shouldn't, really depend on, we need to know what labs we should be getting. And I think this is where we stopped, right? I don't think I've covered this. All right. I say that it's a matter of opinion and sometimes education, what labs are necessary, but I'm very firm in my belief and my experience with myself, my family, my friends, all my clients for the last probably 8 or 9 years. I believe that we absolutely have to have all of these labs right here when we are starting our journey into learning what thyroid health is all about. So I'm going to touch on each one of these individually because they're that important. So we've already talked about the thyroid stimulating hormone that comes from the pituitary signaling the thyroid. It's not coming from the thyroid. It's called thyroid stimulating hormone because it's the pituitary talking to the thyroid, stimulating the thyroid, saying, hey, what's going on down there? Like, we're not getting enough of the thyroid hormone pumping out. Something's happening, okay? So the thyroid's just sitting there going, well, I'm kind of tired. Like, I don't know why I'm not giving you any thyroid hormone. I don't know what's going on. But it's not telling us what's going on with the thyroid. That's where we look to the following labs here, and that's the free T4 and the free T3. So let's start with free T4, because this is a pretty interesting topic. It's a kind of a hefty topic. Hold on a moment. I want to move your guys' screen. Show, nope. Okay, there we go. So Claudia is the only one I'm seeing right now. So if anybody's waving at me or whatever, I can't see you. All right. So the thyroid, the free T4, and I'm going to do this in layman's terms, and then I'm going to touch on this a little bit. Free T4, again, free is unbound, available to the body for being used, okay? Free help, right? And T4 is thyroxine, Thyroxine. Watch my cursor right up top. T4, thyroxine. Thyroxine is a storage hormone. It is almost like a hormone that's just sitting there waiting to be used. It's waiting to be told, I need you, right? And it's just sitting there like, pick me, I'm ready to go. But thyroxine cannot be useful in the body until it's turned into what's called T3. So just to be really clear, when we only test total T4, or we only test free T4, we don't have any idea whether it is turning into the fuel that our body needs. It's like being parked, like a car on an empty gas tank, pulling up, rolling in on empty on fumes to a gas station. The T4, it is like it's in the tank, right? It's in there, but we can't access it because no one's out there pulling the pump off and put it in the car. It's in there, but it's useless to us without a delivery method. And that delivery method is the free T3. All right, so hold on a second. I want to stay on T4 for just a minute so we have a real strong understanding. I'm going to give you guys kind of a little exercise to do. So get a pen and a piece of paper out because I want to give you a visual that you can really put your finger on what this is. So first of all, free thyroxine, free T4, is used to help evaluate the thyroid function disease, obviously, hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism. And this is usually after we've found that the TSH is abnormal. And okay, now, and I'm going to talk about ranges too, so don't ask me what's normal. I'm going to tell you what's normal. T4 and another hormone, which is the T3, are produced by the thyroid gland, not the pituitary gland, the thyroid gland. These hormones control the rate at which the body uses energy and is regulated by that feedback system that we've been talking about over time, which we're also going to touch on, okay? So back to the TSH. That talks to the thyroid, hey, we need some T4 and T3 from the thyroid gland primarily. Okay, so I'm not going to go into all of these details on proteins and binding and all of that because you just need the basics, right? We need the basics, and you can go back and learn the details on this later on. So let me go back to free T3, but before I do that, I want you to write the words or the letters FT4, so free T4, however you want to do it. So I'll just show you. I'm going to walk through it with you guys too. Wish I had a plain piece of paper. I don't. Of course I don't. So this might be hard to see, but so just write free T4, FT4, and then I want you to do an arrow that moves away from it. Can you guys see that? Can you? Okay, so an arrow moving away from the FT4. All right, and then we're going to click on free T3. So this is what T3 is, and it can be a little tricky to say. Triodithyronine. Blech. Anyway, so what this is the gas that fuels the car. This is the gas that's coming out of the free T4. T4 has to convert into T3. So what I want you to do is I want you to write the word convert above your arrow on your piece of paper. Convert. So, and you'll see why I'm doing this in a minute. So free T4 must convert, and then I want you to write T3 to free T3. So without this conversion, you guys, without using this conversion into T3, we have nothing. We have no fuel. It's useless to us. It has to be turned into free T3 to be useful to the body. Stop scratching the carpet, Roscoe. You're distracting me. Okay, my dog's making a bed on the carpet, y'all. All right, so once that happens, the T4, and I don't have enough paper, but I'm going to write it anyway. So you're going to put an equal sign after the FT3, and then you're going to write the word energy after the equal sign. All right. I know this seems elementary, like we're in kindergarten, but work with me here. Free T4 is storage, must convert into T3, free T3 in order for the body to have energy. And I don't just mean running around and all of that. I mean energy to grow hair, energy to have a healthy brain, energy to do all of those things. Now, how do we know if it's going to convert? How do we know if it's converting? Well, most of the time our TSH goes up if it's not. Most of the time we feel tired. If we have leaky gut, we can almost guarantee that we're having a slowing of conversion. And I'm going to talk about where the conversion happens in a minute. But just know that that is the process of how these hormones function from the thyroid gland. Okay, so why is T3 used? Because we need to know if our cells are getting the energy that it needs. It's ordered primarily to help diagnose hyperthyroidism, which is one of the reasons why people with hypothyroidism get the short end of the deal here. We need to know also, if we have hypothyroidism, we need to know if we're getting that energy as well. It's not just for people who are in a crisis situation, which remember, hyperthyroidism is considered a little bit more important or urgent or whatever because of how it affects our heart and our other cells, right? And the fact that we can lose a bunch of weight and crazy things can happen when we speed up too much. So, and again, it's telling you again, same thing it just said, these two hormones help are regulated by a feedback system, etc. Okay, so I want to just scroll down a second before I flip off of this and show you. Since most of the T4 and T3 circulates in the blood bound to protein, remember what I talked about, when it's total, it's usually bound to protein, while a small percentage is free, that's unbound. That's the part that we need so we can use it. That's the part we need, the unbound, free and ready to go thyroid hormone. All right, with all of that said, does anybody have questions so far? That's a lot, right? I'm gonna look at your stuff here. So type your questions into chat so I can read these. So based on this, if TSH is normal, we do not need to test. No, I would disagree with that. We do not need to test for free T4 and free T3, which is usually tested for if TSH is abnormal. Okay, the link on the page doesn't work. Your post link was different. Okay, all right. Okay, that's fine. Let me know what it looks like, Stan. Send me a screenshot to my email and I'll take a peek at it. This book was just updated too, so there may be a few discrepancies, but I'll fix it for you guys. Here's the deal. TSH changes with the wind, okay? If we breathe differently, the TSH has an opportunity to shift. If we are under significant stress for 2 days in a row, the TSH has an opportunity to go up. When we start to calm down, when our cortisol changes, when our hormone, anything, TSH changes with the wind. That is why it is an inadequate test, okay? So you always, if someone is significantly experiencing symptoms or even just maybe has it in their family genetically, has the ability to have these problems because someone else does, get it all done. You might as well. They're very standard tests when you go to like a functional medical doctor. There's no question about whether or not they're going to run a free T3 and a free T4. Okay, so let me look. I saw one more question come through and then I'm going to talk about antibodies. Okay, found the link. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I'll make sure you get this updated version. All right. TPO and TGAB antibodies. So this is the other thing that people don't test for and drives me insane. So if someone's showing up with a elevated TSH or a very deficient TSH number, which is super low, and again, I'll talk about ranges in a minute, people automatically should be tested for autoimmunity. I think it's that important that why waste your time going in to get some labs, waiting 4 weeks for them to come back, and then have to go back another 4 weeks, wait for an antibody test. So I just say test it in the front end. So the antibody testing for thyroid antibodies such as the TPO, which is short for thyroid peroxidase antibody, which is an enzyme, is primary order to diagnose an autoimmune thyroid disease and is to distinguish it from other forms of thyroid dysfunction. So thyroid antibodies develop when a person's immune system, just like we've talked about earlier, mistakenly targets components of the thyroid gland or thyroid proteins, which leads to chronic inflammation of the thyroid, which is otherwise known as thyroiditis. Just a word about the itis ending for those of you who haven't ever known this, which I'm sure most of you do, but itis means inflammation, plantar fasciitis, colitis. Itis just means inflammation. It's one thing that I think, is important to know is just the basics about inflammation. But so it can be called thyroiditis. And sometimes when you get labs from a client, you're looking at them and it says thyroiditis, but it doesn't say hypothyroid. It's just terminology. So don't think that they don't have hypothyroid just because it doesn't say that on there. So just wanted to make you aware of that. Okay. So what can happen there when the antibodies develop and a person's immune system starts targeting the thyroid or the thyroid gland or thyroid proteins, tissue damage, disruption of thyroid function, nodules, marbleization of the thyroid, all of these things can be presented when you have antibodies that are elevated. Okay. So the other thing that I want to point out is thyroid antibody, thyroglobulin antibodies, TGAB, is another very common form of immune system function checking for the thyroid. This antibody targets the thyroglobulin, which is the storage form of thyroid hormone. I like to have them both checked. I like to have my TGAB checked regularly every year I test it because I don't have it and I just want to keep an eye on it. But the TPO antibodies I do have. And so I just kind of keep an eye on them. I don't make them now because I know that I have it. It's not something I obsess over on whether they're up or they're down or how do I get them lower or any of that, because there's so many things that play into the number of an antibody. Okay. And we're going to talk about I think we've already mentioned that you can have Hashimoto's and still have a negative antibody test. I think we've talked about that. I've had some thyroid consults lately, so I don't remember if I mentioned that in class or not, but it is possible to have a negative antibody test and still have Hashimoto's for many reasons. But we talked about Dr. Karazian's article about how sometimes, the body's just not in good enough shape. The immune system is just so bad off that it can't even produce antibodies and you still have Hashimoto's. So the other test to consider, thyroid stimulating immunoglobulin, which is TSI, actually binds to receptors. Remember, I'm not sure if I touched on the key and the lock symbolism. We're going to talk a little bit more about that too, and it promotes the production of thyroid hormones, which leads to hyperthyroidism. So if someone is rapidly losing weight, has anxiety, cannot sleep, their eyes are bulging, and they've got thyroid Graves' disease in the family, this is the test that they would get, the TSI. Okay. And the thyroid binding inhibitory immunoglobulin blocks the TSH from binding to receptors, which I have never had it done because I show activity with my free and my TSH and all of that. But for someone who just can't figure out why they can't seem to even find some stability with their thyroid, the blocking of a production of thyroid hormones, that might be something to test because that can result in hypothyroidism. Okay. And as it says down here, the TBII is not routinely tested. Okay, so the other thing I want to touch on also is, sometimes people may feel that, again, we've talked about the pressure in the throat or people having swelling or an enlarged goiter and other signs and symptoms. Those are just good reasons to have these antibodies tested. And I have to tell you guys this story real quick. So years ago, like my husband owns part of this concrete plants. They're all over the place. And there's this one guy who has always kind of come over here and done odd and end things for us. Like he paints, he lays dirt, he does mulch. Like I always call him the Danny because I don't really know what he does, but that's his name. And I saw him probably 10 years ago, noticed he had like a little tiny little lump on his neck. And I asked my husband, like, what is that? And this is a decade ago before I even knew I had, what was going on with me really. And he's like, I don't know, his little friend, we don't know what it is. Nobody talks about that stuff, right? Men don't talk about that. And so as the years went on, I noticed it started to get a little bit bigger. I haven't seen this man in 3 years because he's working at a different plant. He came to my house and delivered pine straw the other day. Y'all, let me tell you something. It is the biggest goiter I've ever seen in my entire life. There's no bend in his neck at all right here. None at all. And it's just one huge goiter. So I swear to you, I like almost want to be like, can I take a picture of your neck so I can share that with class next week? But I didn't want to be rude. But I'm telling you, like, even the smallest amount of swelling is worth looking at. Now this man, I don't even know his health, history, but I'm telling you right now that this is the epitome. He's very overweight. Like Claudia's like tapping her neck. He's very overweight. His eyes have the bags. His eyebrows are almost gone on the outside. He's a walking thyroid person, if I ever did see one. So tiny little nodule, worth looking at in the very beginning. So very important. Okay. Reverse T3. And this is a confusing one for a lot of people, including medical doctors. They don't think it's necessary. So reverse T3 has been known or talked about kind of being like the mirror image of T3. So what it is, our T3 is usually what it is a biologically inactive form of T3. So normally, again, we're going to talk about conversion. When T4 is turned into T3 in the body, a certain percentage of the T3 is in the form of reverse T3, okay? When the body is under stress, such as during a serious illness, surgery, financial crisis, divorce, whatever it may be, thyroid hormone levels of reverse T3 may be outside the normal ranges, even though there's no thyroid disease present. So just because someone has an elevation of reverse T3 does not mean they have hypothyroidism. However, if someone's is extremely high, it is just a very big indication that that person's body is under significant stress. It's really nice to know like what your ratio and the ranges between free T3 and RT3 when you have any kind of discrepancy. There is a calculator on Stop the Thyroid Madness where you can literally plug your numbers in and see what your ratio is when you get your numbers back, which is pretty cool. Okay, so other tests to talk about real quick, like with the antibodies, we already talked about that. Calcitonin. I don't really get into calcitonin because I don't have a deep understanding of it. It's not something that's ever really been something I've come across or even had tested more than once. But if it is something, someone that may have concerns about cancer, it may be something to venture into if there is a concern about that. Okay. All right. I'm going to check the questions box in just a minute. So TBG, we've talked about thyroid bonding globulin, TSI, we talked about. So one of the best ways you guys to, let's see here. Hold on a second. Kathy's asking a question and you didn't discuss this with him. Are you talking about, Kathy, are you talking about the guy that I was just telling the story about? If so, no, I didn't discuss it with him. He's a concrete bulldozer driver who does lots of favors for me. I don't want to point something like that out to him. It would be a little bit awkward. And so if he asked for my help, yeah, but not just outright, wow, that looks like you have a twin growing in your neck. Like, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, yeah, and Kathy's saying that she's heard 95% of hypo are autoimmune Hashis. I would venture that it's even creeping closer to 100% with the studies that are going on. Okay, so ultrasound. So let's talk about ultrasound. So if somebody is showing a goiter, if someone is showing up with Hashimoto's, has been diagnosed with hypothyroidism, whatever, I always suggest an ultrasound. Once a year, I get an ultrasound. The first time I got an ultrasound, they were like, the report said something like marbleization and destruction congruent with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And I was like, ah! I mean, like total fear. Like I had no idea what marbleization was, what nodules were. I mean, the word nodule itself, we almost automatically think of cancer, right? It's a scary word. So I really want to caution you when you're working with clients or even looking at your own stuff and just remind you again, we've already talked about this, that nodules are common. They grow as we age. Sometimes people have them and don't have any thyroid problems whatsoever. So please, don't tell someone that their nodule is not cancer, but don't tell them it is cancer. Just simply say, I want to talk you off the ledge real quick and just maybe help you relax a little bit about the word. That many people, most people have one or two by the time, they get into their 70s and 80s. So it's not uncommon. So please don't panic. And it doesn't always mean cancer either. But an ultrasound, when they go in there, they're able to take a good, nice look at what's happening, to see how many nodules someone has, to see if there are significant changes year after year. And I always tell the story that when I found out that gluten affects my thyroid and that soy affected my thyroid, I had a baseline ultrasound from when I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and I got another one done after I went gluten-free, soy-free, started eating a primal paleo diet, and there was absolutely no change at all in the destruction of my thyroid. So I am telling you, that was my third ultrasound. So first one to second one, some destruction still going on, a little bit of marbleization changes on the edges of my thyroid. After the change in the diet, third ultrasound, no changes at all. So for anybody who thinks that it's not important and that just having it every now and then is okay, it's not. I'm telling you right now, I'm your tough love mother right here. It is not okay. And even though I still have antibodies, I still have Hashimoto's, I take a 125 microgram pill of thyroid medicine every day, which is significantly lower than what I was on, considering it was 80 to 100 micrograms per day, you guys, and T3. I was on so much medication. I'm happy with where I am. And sometimes the destruction is so far gone by the time someone's diagnosed. It's just what you need to get on with your life and to live a healthy life is to have thyroid hormone taken. So there's no shame in it. There's no shame in it. And a lot of people say, well, I don't want to take anything. Do you want to have a happy, healthy life? Or do you care about what it looks like that you have to take medicine? Believe me, there's a stigma around it. There really is. I mean, Shannon Garrett, who is one of my experts in my course last fall, she takes thyroid hormone. I mean, and she's an expert at this. So I just want to remind you, hormone balance is very complex. It requires a nutritionally balanced diet, hormone balance, stress management, and so many other things, you guys. And if there are restrictions on someone doing the full battery of tests, which really, this is nothing. You should see what I get done every 6 months. It is like 4 pages long. This is nothing to ask for. You can always recommend that someone go to like Lab Tests Now, order the labs online, get a doctor at one of the resources I've shared in this book, and get a full panel done. It's worth it. It's worth the extra $60, $70, $100, however much it's going to be. Okay. Marbleization. Marbleization is, and this is disgusting, but it's the only way I know how to explain it. Okay. So a healthy thyroid looks like a sirloin steak. Okay. No, I'll use a filet. Filet's better. Think about a filet, no fat, very, very lean, beautiful piece of meat, right? That's a healthy thyroid. An unhealthy thyroid is a ribeye. Okay. You know what a ribeye looks like? It's got marbleized fat throughout, fat on the edges, fat in the middle. It doesn't look healthy, but it's good, right? So it's good. But that is a diseased thyroid. Put a filet next to a ribeye. I should do a little Canva ad about that. Now that I'm saying that, I'm gonna write myself a note. Okay. Canva. Okay. And that's what it looks like. The fat is the destroyed tissue on the ribeye. So the meat is the healthy part of the thyroid that's left, the tissue that's healthy. The fat of the thyroid, of the ribeye, is the destroyed dead tissue. Okay. I hope that's helpful. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah. Okay. So it's disgusting. Like, who wants to think about eating a thyroid? But that's the only way I know how to explain it. All right. So what makes people prone to nodules? I've had them and have breast cysts and pituitary tumor. That's you, Claudia. Okay. So what makes people prone to nodules is something that is not working for your body, that's making your body attack. So gluten, did you eat gluten? I mean, were you a big gluten eater? Well, that probably helped you grow some thyroid, some nodules. Not only that, but we have to remember that venturing into the breast cysts and pituitary tumor, we have to remember that estrogen is a growth hormone, right? So that is one of those things. I mean, I also want you to remember that this didn't happen this year or last year or the year before. It's probably happened over time. Growths happen over time. It starts out as a little tiny raisin size whatever that we don't even notice, and then it turns into a grape over time. If we don't remove the gluten, we don't remove the soy, we have overabundance of estrogen in our body, we are going to grow things that don't belong there. I'm the queen of it. I had endometriosis, back in 2000, I had that taken out. I had fibroids. I had a fibroid the size of a baseball when I was personal training. Not even, it was 2012. I was still training. I never knew it until one day I was doing a plank, and I'm like, why? What is that pressure in my uterus or whatever? I went in, and he was like, holy mow! I mean, you have a fibroid this big in there. I'm like, well, get it out. And he's like, okay, well, that's what we're going to do with that. That came from too much estrogen because of all the years that I ate tofu fried in soy sauce. I tell that story, but hello, you guys, like who? Oh, yeah. And birth control, yes, can cause all this too. Absolutely. 100% connected. Yes. Yeah. And not to mention the hormone imbalances that birth control causes, and depression and everything else. Okay. Now that we know, basics, what the basic labs are, what to do with them once they're received. So receiving lab results can be confusing, scary, intimidating all at the same time. We cannot become doctors and learn it all, but there are resources that are available to others, to your clients, to you, to figure that out. And, you know, these are just a few of them. So let's say that you don't want to venture into even thinking about talking about labs with your clients yet. Does that mean you shouldn't work with someone with thyroid? No, not at all. That means that you put this guide into your program and say, I am going to help walk you through this process to the best of my ability, help you find a doctor that knows this subject. And I'm going to give you resources to start taking control of your life. You don't have to want to do this for a living to, you know, to help people. Okay. So let's look at this real quick. I see that dog. Oh my gosh. Hello. Oh, I love it. Look at the ears. So cute. So cute. I'm probably the most distracted teacher you guys will ever have. But if an animal creeps in, it's over for me. Okay. So this is a wonderful page to give to a client that is trying to figure it all out as far as how do I even get ready to do labs? How do I even understand them? What's important for me? You can pull this page up and learn with them. So you can walk through this page in person or on the thing or whatever, and you can talk to them. You know, a cortisol saliva test would be a really powerful test to have since you're not sleeping very well. Aldosterone measures the adrenal hormone aldosterone, helps regulate levels of sodium and potassium in your body, et cetera. So if someone has got edema, swelling in their ankles, whatever, you know, check their sodium and potassium. Like, just go down the list of the things that, you know, to talk about with them about thyroid and what may not be overwhelming for them. You can read from this page. Look, the free T3 is this. But that's you sharing information with them or them reading it for themselves. That's not you having to get a medical degree to help somebody, okay? So just remember that these resources are in here. Use them. There's the lab test online if you are ready to dig in. I also love Dr. Ryan's outline for thyroid and adrenal, and you're going to find out in a few minutes where Laura and I talked about, you know, when I said the masters of mimicry, we're going to talk about those in a minute. But we are talking about adrenals, estrogen, and thyroid. I also think iron has some of these same symptoms. They have so much that is the same that it can be really hard. It's like, is it my adrenals or is it my thyroid? Do I have too much estrogen? Like, what's causing this? So I love Dr. Ryan's little scale here. It's not a black and white thing, you guys. It is based on how you're feeling. It is based on your history. It's based on labs. It's based on, you know, you in general. But I think it's a powerful one to help people kind of look at some of this stuff. So for example, somebody who has a low body temperature in the morning, right? They're like, I don't know if it's my thyroid. Is it my adrenals? Is it estrogen? I don't know. If it's below 97.8, it could be any of those things. You would then scoot over here to symptoms and see which symptoms match with that. You could then go over here, and if they've had labs done, you can look at that. So it's just a great way to kind of narrow things down a little bit, okay? So, and then it also talks a little bit about lab ranges and things like that. All right, so here are resources. As I've already mentioned to you, if they don't have a doctor that's willing to help them, or, you know, they want to get it all done, they don't care, they just want one place to get it all, here are 3 resources to order your labs from. There's a lot more popping up every day. This book was written and updated as much as possible by December, but there's more out there. So if you want to pick another lab to send your client, feel free. If you don't want to do the work, pick one of these. All right. Okay. Here's something that you can do to give your people something to do at home. Little action step, homework. So just tell them, you know, all right, so you're not sure if you have thyroid stuff going on. Let's do this for the next 3 days. You know, take your temperature, write it down. Don't even move. Don't even roll over. Just reach over, get the thermometer. I know everybody talks about using the mercury ones. Whatever, just use a basal temperature. And you know what, even get 2. And if they're within a 0.1 degree, then they're accurate. Just use one of those. And do it for 3 days, get an average and find out, is it below 97.8? I like to say 97.9, but most people say 97.8. If it's below that, there is a sluggish thyroid. And as an example, my parents, if they ever listen to these classes, they would be like, thanks a lot, Carmen. So my dad, because I use him a lot for examples, but he had a body temperature of like 96.9, had that forever. And I'm like, that's not normal. That's just how I roll. I'm like, Dad, you're not a reptile. Okay. You're a human being. Human beings have body temperatures of 98.6. Sometimes 97.9, a little higher here, and that depends, right? 96 is not normal at all in any way. Well, I'm fine. Okay. Well, 2 years later, he finally came to me. He's like, I need you to look at my labs. He had a high TSH, low free T4, low free T3, inaccurate RT3. He was a thyroid person, right? With no antibodies. So just push that home for him that was not normal. The more he changed his food, the more things started to shift. His body temperature started going up. I got to say, told you so. All right. Rhoda Barnes used to test patients by their Achilles reflex and their body temperature. And I thought that was just kind of cool that they never had labs like that. And he was like accurate almost 100% of the time. So he's kind of a fun person to read about. So I would look that one up as well, just if you're interested. All right, let me look at questions. Okay. Connie's saying they should test again when they stand up. Okay. So the reason why they would test again when they stand up, that's actually blood pressure. That is not body temperature. That's blood pressure. Your body temperature is going to change with activity. That's why they tell you not to do anything except grab the thermometer and put it in your mouth. Now, I want to talk about this blood pressure thing because it's a great point. So if people don't know that yet, when you are testing your blood pressure, it can be a good test for adrenals. And you're laying down, you test it, get your blood pressure, turn your machine off, stand up immediately, hit it again, and do it again. If your blood pressure drops from the time you were laying down, that is a sign of adrenal stress. Okay, blood pressure should always go up when you have activity. So that's just a good point, Connie, to make. All right, masters of mimicry. We're talking about these three things that all mimic thyroid symptoms, which I just mentioned. So low iron, high estrogen, adrenal dysfunction can all mimic the thyroid. This is where labs become super important, and they act like a checklist for narrowing down what could be going on. All right, so iron. Let's talk about iron first, because it's really never enough just to know what is in storage. And I cannot tell you how many times I've just seen ferritin. Ferritin is your storage iron. People say, my iron's fine. How do you know? You only have ferritin and it's in storage. How do you know it's free, what's working in the body, what's your saturation level? How do you know? Well, my doctor said it's fine. Okay. So I don't believe that. Iron is absolutely crucial to good thyroid health because, and this is the scientific explanation is, when you're deficient in iron, it can significantly reduce your T4 to T3 conversion. And remember, we have to have that conversion to have the fuel. It can increase the reverse T3 levels. Remember, reverse T3 goes up when the body is under stress. It can then block the thermogenic metabolism boosting properties of thyroid hormone. So iron deficiency, as indicated by a saturation level above 25 or a storage level of ferritin below 70, will result in diminished intracellular T3 levels. Okay, intracellular is a medical terminology for in the cell. So what happens means that T3 that's converted, that T4 that converted into T3, and remember it equaled energy. Well, the energy, we're going to pick that paper back up, you guys, and I want you to put a circle around the energy. So kind of like that, okay? That circle indicates the cell. That circle is the cell. The energy in that cell without thyroid hormones is going to be low, intracellular T3, low. Does that make sense to everybody? Everybody get that? Okay. So additionally, T4 should not be considered adequate thyroid replacement if iron deficiency is present. Because remember, if you're just taking T4, which is thyroxine, otherwise known as Thyroid, yes, I will talk about all of those. If you're just taking that, you're not able to convert because your iron is low. What are you not getting? T3. So it's just sitting there, just literally just swallowing pills for no freaking reason at all. Okay. If you cannot convert because your iron is too low, you're making no T3, you're not getting the energy. Waste of time, waste of money, waste of everything, waste of effort while your body continues to not get the thyroid hormone that it needs. So what that means is not having adequate iron can basically make your thyroid medication impossible to use and can also cause heart palpitations, which can be mistaken for too much thyroid medication. When in reality, the person is just extremely hypothyroid with low iron. Just testing thyroid hormone is not enough. All right, personal story again. So patients, for those of you who've heard this story before, it seems like every time I would write a chapter, it was always based on something I dealt with. And so that's probably why when something crazy, horrible happens, or to me, or I'm under significant stress or something's just like, why is this happening? I'm not a person that says, why is this happening to me? I'm a person that looks at everything that happens to me, everything, and thinks, okay, where's the story here? Where's the lesson for me here? How can my life be better because this is happening, right? So this is what happened to me. I was taking T4 and I was taking T3. I don't even know if it's a natural thyroid at the time, maybe 2 compound. I've taken them all. And I was getting like significant heart palpitations, like to where I was like, what the heck, man? You know, it was like pounding out of my chest, sitting still. Lay in the bed, roll over, pounding chest, you know, then it would feel it fluttering in my throat. Then my thyroid started to feel like I couldn't swallow. And I'm like, okay. So after a week of that discomfort, I went to my GP and I'm like, can we do like, just take a listen and see what's going on in there? And she's like panicked. She throws an EKG machine on me and I'm having these palpitations and she's like thinking I'm having a heart attack. I'm like, I'm fine, Grace. I think my iron's just too low. And she was like, no, you know, your EKG is abnormal. So her name is Grace. She sends me to a cardiologist. In the meantime, with all this happening, y'all, I just stopped taking the T3. I backed down on the T4. The palpitations went away. I started feeling normal. I started increasing my red meat, eating vitamin C, and even taking an iron supplement. And 3 weeks later, I get in to see the cardiologist, and she wouldn't work with me anymore, my GP, because I hadn't had my heart checked. She's like, I think you're hyperthyroid. Something's going on with your heart. And I said, I think I just had low iron because I'm feeling better already. I think it was 8 weeks went by with this disaster, multiple bills. I had to wear a halter thing on my heart. It was low iron. My iron was bottomed out. So I could not tolerate the thyroid medication. It is a very, very real thing. I was feeling worse in the sense that I was more hypo because my medicine was lower, but I was feeling better that the heart palpitations had gone away. My iron went up. I went back on my normal thyroid medicine and everything was fine. Think of all these stupid things that could have been avoided for me if I had had a doctor that said, you know what, let's just check your iron real quick and see how that's going. So anyway, no fault of hers. She didn't want to have to deal with medical malpractice. I understand that, but it's really important to know this. So if your client has been told that they're hyperthyroid because they have palpitations, check their iron, because I almost guarantee you that's not what's going on. Ferritin is the storage iron. We've already talked about that. Iron saturation in serum. There's 4 iron tests that are important so you can get the whole picture, all right? So saturation in serum are important. And they've got them all listed right here. But serum iron tests are typically ordered as follow-ups when abnormal results are shown on like a CBC with like a decreased hemoglobin or hematocrit levels or something like that. Early iron deficiency goes unnoticed. Again, this is one of those reasons why when I got hit with palpitations, I should have maybe paid attention earlier. But another thing that had been happening to me that I wasn't aware was part of low iron is my legs felt like lead. And I was getting breathless going upstairs. I was like fatigued, like I felt like I couldn't lift my legs up. That was low iron as well. So step outside the thyroid process and think about, when we're thinking about the things that are similar, fatigue is similar, hair loss is similar to thyroid. Weakness can be similar to thyroid, but there are other pieces that can be going on with iron deficiency. Chest pain, I had that. Leg pain, I had that. Shortness of breath that don't necessarily relate to thyroid. That's why it's important to step outside of the norm list and understand iron as well. Is this all making sense to you guys? Why you can't just test thyroid, you got to test everything. It's so important. So important. Okay, so then you've got your TIBC and your UIBC. So you've got an unsaturated binding capacity and all of that. You guys can go digging into all of this deeper, but just know that these are typically not ordered unless you ask for them. So total iron binding capacity is the test that is ordered along with serum iron when someone may be deficient. Okay, so it's just the same thing. It's going to give you some ideas about if an iron level is low, but the TIB is increased, transferrin saturation becomes low, and so on and so forth. It's going to help like take the puzzle apart about iron. All right, so getting lab tests back that are in normal range, it's important. Any questions about that so far? Okay, then I'm probably going to touch on something sensitive because some people I don't know on here. I don't know if any vegans are on here or not. I'm not trying to, make anybody feel bad about their choice of how they eat or whatever. I'm just saying that the science is behind the fact that if somebody is not eating enough red meat, their iron can be significantly lower, will be significantly lower than someone who is. And so if someone has thyroid issues and they're a vegan and they're struggling to get themselves on track, it is I seriously encourage you to consider, or them to consider, looking into adding red meat back into their diet. Now, speaking from someone who didn't eat it for 23 years, I'm coming from a place of experience here, you guys. I'm the one that doesn't kill bugs, okay? I don't think anything should die unless it feeds something. Like, that's just me. I think I'm a really soft-hearted person. So I didn't eat red meat or pork for 23 years because I couldn't take it. I couldn't take the idea of it. It was horrible for me. But my iron was so bad that look what it did to me. Heart palpitations, all of that. I knew I had to make a change in my food to have better health. It was just something I had to do. So if that happens with someone that they're just dead set on it and they can't do it, I recommend all you can do in this situation is teach them about humane grass-fed practices. Teach them about, honoring how they can honor the animal that is there to help them have a better life. Like, go at it from a perspective that is compassionate, empathetic, and kind, because it is a very deep-seated belief system that is hard to penetrate, but it can mean everything when it comes to someone getting their life back. Okay. So, I just encourage you to have compassion because it's a very difficult thing to do. I bawled my eyes out the first time I ate a burger, and it was only that big. It was a tiny little burger, and I cried through the whole thing. And my husband was like, the first time he'd had a steak, and I think it's 8 years being married to me, and he was like, "Are you okay over there?" I'm like, "I'm fine." But I now eat red meat regularly, and I've never had an iron problem again. Okay. Yes. Kathy said, should always you have iron check when you have thyroid tests? Yes. Yes, I think so. Let me say this. Let me back up. Always test your iron if you're feeling symptomatic and you can't figure out why. If you're just doing regular thyroid tests to follow up and see how things are going, no need to test iron. If you're symptomatic and don't know why, test your iron. All right. So hem iron is animal sourced iron. Non-hem iron is vegetable iron. I mean, you're just not going to get it the same way. Okay, so fixing digestion can help with iron storage issues and help prevent anemia as well. Now, the body uses the iron to make hemoglobin, which is a part of our blood cells that carries oxygen to the body. Lack of oxygen to the cells creates inflammation. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Any questions about iron? We're moving on to sex hormones. I'm trying to watch the clock a little bit here too. Okay, so sex hormones, this is kind of what we touched on yesterday. Go ahead, Veronica. I saw your flashing here. Go ahead and ask your question. You can unmute yourself if that's faster for you. Can you guys hear the lawnmower outside my window?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, my question is about vegans.
Uh-huh.
So, if they insist upon vegetarian veganism, can they get sufficient iron from supplements?
Okay, so this is one of those tricky questions because we don't want people to live on supplements, right? Because it's not the most bioavailable form of iron.
Right.
Not to mention all the problems people can have with constipation if they get the wrong kind. Even if they get the right kind, remember that the liver has to process toxins, right? And it carries our load. Well, supplements have to go through the liver first. The liver is where conversion happens. Most of conversion happens for T4, T3. The gut and the liver. So when we overburden the liver with supplements of any kind, even if it's a food-based supplement, we're making the liver work harder to process the supplement. It doesn't get to work as hard to help convert T4 to T3. So supplements aren't the answer. They'd have to eat, I don't even know how much greens they'd have to eat to make up for what they could get from red meat. But it is a personal choice. It is something that if someone is going into this and dead set on not changing their vegan ways, you just give them the blessing, give them the list of iron-rich foods, tell them what happens with taking supplements long-term and how hard it is for the body to work on that. Thank you, Kathy. So that's, Flora Vital is a good one. And then just kind of do whatever you can to support their choices. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. That's the one I was going to, that I would share too, Kathy. Thank you for putting that up. Okay. All right, so sex hormones and why they're a piece of the puzzle. We touched on this very briefly with Laura the other day and a little bit with Maria when we did the estrogen dominance webinar. Some of you may not have made it to that or seen it yet, but just remember, I'm trying to like make this a layman's type of book where you guys can understand it and teach it and share it. We live in a world that is wrought with excess estrogen. We're being inundated with phytoestrogens. Phytoestrogens are soy oils and beans, plant-based estrogens. Xenoestrogens are pesticides, plastics, toxins in our lotions, fertilizers, things that candles every day. So what does this mean for the body as a whole? Estrogen dominance, this is why it's important, causes the liver to produce high levels of a protein called thyroid binding globulin. Remember, we touched on this, TBI, which, as its name suggests, binds the thyroid hormone and decreases the amount of thyroid hormone that can be assimilated into and used by the cells. Okay, so if estrogen is causing the liver to produce high levels of a protein, then what is it doing to the conversion of T4 to T3? It's reducing it. Okay, it's reducing it. It's binding thyroid hormone, decreasing the amount of energy that our cells are getting. This leads to low thyroid function, all the negative side effects that come with it. If you want to read more about the estrogen dominance connection, you can go to Paleo Mom for that. So progesterone and estrogen ratios, which I don't even remember if we really got into it very briefly, and I'm not going to dig into that too much because I'm not the hormone expert. It's not my only place of knowledge, but just knowing that when someone is estrogen dominant, it means that they have more estrogen than they do have progesterone. So I'm going to write this down and show you guys. Hold on a second. I should probably have just put it in there, but I didn't. So we are going to put, progesterone to estrogen ratio should be, I like to say 200. I think 300 is better, but some people say it's too much. So 200 to 1. The ratio of progesterone to estrogen should be 200 to 1. It is normally, this is what we're finding in people because of what I just told you guys. Usually anything above 100, 200, 300 estrogen to progesterone. Okay. I'm sorry about the yellow striped paper, but estrogen to progesterone, it's reversed. And so we have too much estrogen. Even if we're in menopause, we normally have more estrogen than we do progesterone. Progesterone should always be higher than estrogen to balance out the effects of the excess that we are exposed to. So let's talk briefly about cholesterol. For those of you who don't know, and this isn't, when I talk about this being just, a class on thyroid, it's really not. You guys are getting much more than that because it's all important. It's all related. But cholesterol is the precursor to all hormone production, right? It's at the top of the chain. It is the precursor to all hormones. So, all of this low cholesterol food stuff really screwed us, to be honest with you. When they started talking about how we shouldn't be eating cholesterol. If we had a timeline, and this is just a guess of mine, I haven't done the studies on this or anything, but if we had a timeline where we could see that hormones took a nosedive and how everything started to kind of fall apart in our health, cholesterol, the low cholesterol diet and food plan has to be in there somewhere. Because when we lower cholesterol, we lower all of those hormones underneath from turning into the hormones we need to be healthy and happy. So lots of information on why cholesterol plays a huge part in hormone health. Lots of education here for talking to your clients about why eating eggs is important if they can tolerate them, why having cholesterol in the body is hugely important. And here's the other thing. Cholesterol rate should be higher as we age. Okay. So all these people, my mom and dad included, my dad said my doctor wants to put me on a statin because my cholesterol was like 270. And I was like, absolutely not. Are you kidding me? No way. That's not even high really. But the number is 200 for conventional medical doctors across the board. No matter what your age is, no matter what your health condition is, no matter what's going on with you, everyone should be at 200. That's just a crock because as we age, cholesterol is the water for the fire of inflammation in our body. It puts out inflammation, okay? So let's look at how, real quick, I'm just going to pull this up and kind of give you guys a general idea of how thyroid and cholesterol are related to each other. Now, this is a good article to share with anybody who has high cholesterol and thyroid problems so that their doctor doesn't start throwing statins at them, okay? This talks about how the thyroid hormone controls the body's metabolism and can affect cholesterol levels. Now, it goes into all the different kinds of cholesterol that we have, LDL, which, HDL, all of that. But when thyroid levels, hormone levels are low and TSH levels are increased, hypothyroidism, cholesterol levels can go up, okay? So a mild decrease in cholesterol levels is seen with the treatment of hypothyroidism with thyroid hormone. What is not known is whether the TSH has any effect on thyroid cholesterol levels on their own in the presence of normal thyroid hormone levels, okay? So anyway, it's a good there's a summary of the study and things like that, but it's just an important thing to know that if someone has high cholesterol and their doctor's like, you have to take this, and they're like, but I also have thyroid problems, that's something they need to consider keeping in mind. Okay. So a sex hormone panel, which should be done on day 21 of a woman's cycle if she's still cycling. If not, it doesn't matter. You can play the guessing game like I do. I don't know, maybe this day or that day, doesn't matter. You should have them consider getting a fasting lipid panel, which I'm a big believer in the Boston Heart test. I think it's a really thorough test. You get a book with it. It's so thorough, but it's very expensive and a lot of doctors don't do it. You can do a simple blood cholesterol level test, which is also tells you the details. You don't have to do anything fancy for that. Now, going into testing on thyroid, on hormone levels, the Dutch test is new to me of the last year plus. So it would be the one that I would recommend. Now, I almost hate to say they can do saliva, urine, or blood because I just don't think they're as accurate, but most people are not going to go out and get the Dutch test. So the next best thing to consider here would be to get their blood levels done on pregnenolone, which is the mother of all hormones. So it goes cholesterol, pregnenolone, DHEA, and then we branch off into the androgenic hormones and all of the other hormones too. Okay. So they all branch out. If you've ever seen a hormone cascade pathway, you know what? I should probably share that with you guys. I think that's important enough to share. Hold on a minute, you guys. Let's see here if I can pull up one that makes sense. So you guys can get a visual of this. It's a hormone cascade. My doctor pulled this up the other day for me and he was like, let me explain the hormones to you. I'm like, yeah, I know all that already. You don't have to tell me. Let's not spend more time on that. Okay, so cholesterol, pregnenolone. Pregnenolone has a couple of different avenues as well, but then it turns into DHEA, then it turns into your androstenedione. I hate that word, but anyway, you can read it. Then to testosterone, progesterone, estradiol. Okay, so that's just one chart. There's another one that shows you cholesterol turns to pregnenolone. This one says progesterone, but it's not. It's DHEA. DHEA plays into there. Here's my normal chart. This is one of the ones, yeah. So you've got pregnenolone that can go into progesterone on a different pathway, but DHEA is the one that turns into the androgenic hormones. So those are pretty cool little charts that you can take a look at and share with your clients to show them the importance of cholesterol, okay, and why we need to know what our levels are. All right. Yes, DHEA is a precursor for the androgenic hormones. Absolutely. Yep. And let's see here. And then it goes into the differences too. The more you learn about this, and this isn't a hormone class, but the more you learn about this is that DHEA has the opportunity to either turn into estrogen or turn into testosterone. And so people who are estrogen dominant, but have low testosterone and they're given a DHEA supplement that is not keto doesn't do that. I'm using my mind here, my brain, my memory. DHEA, and it decides that it's going to turn into estrogen, you're then adding to that estrogen burden. So it's not smart for someone just to go out and start taking DHEA. That's why tests are so important. We need to see exactly what's going on. Now, I want to talk real quick about, there's three different kinds of estrogen, you guys: estradiol, estriol, estrione. You can watch the webinar with me and Maria if you want to learn more about those, but free and total testosterone. So here's something else that people don't talk about. Again, with the total testosterone, free testosterone, it's the same thing as free and total thyroid hormone. If you test only total testosterone, you don't know what's free and available for the body to use. It's important to know what's free and floating around out there in the body, because here's the other thing. This is the one test that nobody ever tests for some reason. SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin. Sex hormone binding globulin is rarely tested, but it has the unique ability to go out and grab on to testosterone, okay? So it can make, literally your labs can say that you have plenty of total testosterone. Let's say your number is like 500, lots of testosterone. But if you don't test the SHBG, you don't know if it's bound to, if the testosterone is binding to the SHBG and becoming unfree. Make sense? So if it's bound, if your SHBG is high, it's binding to the testosterone. Your testosterone could be normal in your total levels, but you're not getting any into your cells. Hope that makes sense. Let's see here. Yes. Yeah, I believe it is. SHBG is part of the Dutch test. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. You look like a Mack truck to me. Who, me? Mary Louise says, I'm having, Stan. I'm like, actually, I'm having a pretty good day today. Let's see here. Yeah, Mary Louise, your comment about the doctor saying pregnenolone is not on her list of sex hormones being tested, it wasn't important. Not really. Makes me crazy. It's not important, no, at all. No, it's only the one thing that turns the other hormones turn into hormones from. Oh, it's infuriating. Okay, so the Dutch test link there, you guys. And just remember, Maria gives health coaches a discount. So if you guys want your own stuff done, I recommend it. All right. Oh, gosh, it's 1 o'clock already. I've got 20 women coming to my house tonight, and I'm making pizza for everybody. And I've got so much to do, but I really don't want to stop right this second. I want to go into soy. Okay. So let's see here. So let's do this. Let's touch on soy real quick, so we have a good stopping point. So soy and how it relates to sex hormones. Again, remember, it's a phytoestrogen. So for so many years that we were told that soy is a health food, that it reduces cholesterol and is considered a healthy form of protein. We now know that lower cholesterol is not a good thing, right? And that soy carries more risk than we thought it did. So this, if you guys don't follow Weston A. Price, you should. Lots of great information there. But you know what happens with soy? The list is a mile long. This is just a few of them. That high levels of phytic acid in soy reduce the assimilation of calcium, magnesium, copper, iron, and zinc. One of the reasons why many vegans are low in all of these nutrients is because they're eating a lot of soy, and it's reducing their absorption of these important minerals. Let's see here. Trypsin inhibitors in soy interfere with protein digestion and may cause pancreatic disorders. Soy phytoestrogens disrupt endocrine function and have the potential to cause infertility, which might be a reason why I had a miscarriage and was not able to get pregnant for many years because I was eating the crud out of it. Oh, even soy milk, soybeans, soy tofu, soy sauce. Oh my Lord. Soy phytoestrogens are potent anti-thyroid agents that cause hypothyroidism, may cause cancer. Just another reason that, even in infants, you guys, consumption of soy formula has been linked to autoimmune thyroid disease, and it may not show up for years, which is really, really sad. Okay. It also increases the body's requirement for vitamin D. If you want to know more, you can go out there and read everything on soy that you can find. Tamari is a good soy alternative. It's a safe version because it's fermented. Totally different. Tempeh from tamari are fermented soys, which reduces that danger aspect of soy. Okay. All right. I don't want to go into the adrenals today because those are going to probably be a little bit more in depth, but it is going to be part of what we talk about. So let's see here. Claudia is saying, why do so many doctors recommend soy milk for infants rather than nut milks or coconut milks? Probably because of that fear of a nut allergy. With children, they probably are, at our school where my kid is, there's like peanut-free table, like nut-free zones and all of that. It's no different than it is for with infants, is that they're fearful that these children are born with allergies to nuts. So they recommend soy because first, here's the other thing. Soy is required by the FDA. They are, I want to see if I can word this properly. You are required to put soy on products. Like if you guys ever see contains soy milk eggs, right? Soy this, that. But you rarely see contains gluten, right? Because gluten hasn't made it into that, which is absolutely insane to me. It doesn't make any sense why gluten is not required to be on labels of food, but soy is. Now, soy is also a high allergenic food, but as far as infant formulas and things like that are concerned, it's been used for so long. Again, they said it was a health food, that they don't probably have a lot of studies on infants having adverse reactions to soy, because I think more than anything, soy is like one of those cumulative things, right? That goes, the more you're on it, the more problems start. So it just seems like a safe alternative, in my opinion, in their minds. They don't want to go into the nut zone. So the soy has been one of those things that's been around forever. Everyone thinks it's healthy, so they just stay there, which is crazy. And not to mention that goat milk is like the closest thing to human colostrum than anything out there. And my kid actually prefers it, but I don't prefer the price tag on goat milk. It's like $5 for a quart. He can go through some milk. So goat milk, and then there's also recipes out there for people to make their own for infants. So, all right. So are there any other questions about the stuff we covered today? I know someone posted in one of the pages, I don't remember which one, but they were like talking about how overwhelming this is. And I don't want you guys to feel overwhelmed. I'm really trying to keep this as simple as possible. You know what I mean? Like simple, because you're all smart enough to get it all. But for me, for something to stick, it has to be really, really basic, and I have to learn it visually. I have to learn it with stories. I have to hear it. Like I'm a learner that has to have all these avenues to be able to retain. That could just be age and menopause too. But anyway, okay. So any other questions about this or anything you guys want to ask right now? Everybody feeling pretty comfortable with what we've done so far? Good. Do you feel like you could, if someone came to you and said, I have a thyroid problem, do you think you could help them? Connie, stop shaking your head. Yes, you could. Yes, you could. I know you could. So, okay. Yeah, it is much better in 4 classes, Kathy. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And one of the reasons it was put into the 8-week course the way it was because the amount of content that I created, even while teaching you guys, was bizarre. Like I was adding to your stuff constantly. So I would have been teaching for 6 months if I extended it any further. You know what I mean? Plus, we're still evergreening. So this is going to be taught this way in the new course that you guys get access to. Whoever took the course last fall and paid for that course, you'll be given access to the new one. I don't know when it's going to be done at this point. I'm still recording. It's so much information. I could make a school out of it, like a 6-month school. That's probably what I'm going to end up doing because I want it to be the school that you guys can take the national certification through. And I've also been in touch. I'm still talking about grandfathering you all in from last fall anyway. So there it is. All right. So just a couple of notes. My suggestion will work for me is take any lab test you have and follow along looking up terms you aren't sure of. Yep. Once you own your own data, you can tag it to others more easily. You know, Stan, you're hilarious. My weakness is understanding women, but I rarely work with them. Oh, labs, you mean, not understanding in general. I'm like, well, you ain't no different than anybody else. That's for sure. Ain't no man out there that understands a woman. Okay. All right. So I'm going to stop this share and I'm going to, oh, shoot. What page was I on? It was just adrenals, right? Hold on. Let me write it down. All right. So we will start back up with adrenals next week. I'm probably going to throw a class on for maybe the end of next week. I don't know. I'll post later today once I get a look at my calendar. I'm going to go spend the rest of the day catching up on messages and rolling pizza dough because apparently I'm making 6 pizzas from scratch tonight. I know, gluten-free ones. So wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Make that 8. So 8 pizzas from scratch. Yeah. Today's my anniversary too, by the way, you guys. It's my